Let's get started. All right, so first of all, thank you all for being here for the Steinbeck Fellows Program Spring Reading. Really appreciate everybody being here. I'm Keenan Norris, professor of English and Creative Writing here at San Jose State and the coordinator of our Steinbeck Fellows Program. I'd like to begin our proceedings with a land acknowledgement provided by the Muwekma Ohlone Tribe. The San Jose State University community recognizes that the present-day Muwekma Ohlone Tribe, with an enrolled Bureau of Indian Affairs documented membership of over 550 members, is comprised of all of the known surviving American Indian lineages aboriginal to San Jose and Dolores during the advent of the Hispano-European Empire into Alta California, and who are the successors and living members of the sovereign, historic, previously federally recognized Verona Band of Alameda County. Furthermore, the San Jose State University community recognizes that the university is established within the Thameen Ohlone-speaking tribal ethno-historical territory, which, based upon the unratified federal treaties of 1851-52, includes the unceded ancestral lands of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area. Some of the enrolled Muwekma lineages are descended from direct ancestors from the Thameen Ohlone tribal territory, whose ancestors have had affiliation with Mission Santa Clara. I also want to say in this, I'm speaking purely for myself here, not representative of the Steinbeck Center or the Steinbeck Fellows Program, but I want to say as well, as part in relation to this land acknowledgement, that land acknowledgements mean nothing if they simply exist in the past tense or without historical context. We need to acknowledge the land back movement on this continent, and on a global level, we must confront the human toll of settler colonialism and genocide as it is being borne out in Palestine and South Sudan, in the Congo, and elsewhere. Now, on to our program for tonight. I want to say a few words about the Steinbeck Fellows Program. This program is endowed through the generosity of Martha Heasley Cox. It offers writers of any age and background a $15,000 fellowship to finish a significant writing project. Named in honor of author John Steinbeck, the program is guided by his lifetime of work in literature, the media, and environmental activism. Fellowships are currently offered in creative writing, in everything except poetry, sorry poets, and Steinbeck Studies. Fellows may be appointed in many fields, including literary scholarship, fiction, drama, education, science, and the media. We also have a graduate Steinbeck Fellows wing as part of this program. The Steinbeck Center also supports up to 6 exceptional incoming students in our MFA Creative Writing and MA English programs, with full in-state tuition for their first year of study. All applicants to the 2 programs are considered for these fellowships. The Steinbeck Fellows program has also, in recent years, been host to or cultivator of just a remarkable roster of emerging writers. And I want to speak some to this as we get started here. So Steinbeck Fellows are making a great impact across our literary landscape. Recent fellows, Rena Shaw, whose novel Every Happiness was just published, Brian Trapp, whose novel Range of Motion, these are all debut novels, Range of Motion was just published, and Carrie R. Moore, whose short story collection Make Your Way Home was just published, right, have all debuted with their books within the past year. And Bobak Syed, Alexia Nader, Meghana Mysore, and Abdulrahman El-Gindi, also recent Steinbeck Fellows, are all set to publish their debuts later this year. Let me give you the titles of those books. So Bobak Syed's novel is No God But Us. Alexia Nader's novel will be called The Meaning of Daughter. Meghana Mysore's short story collection is called Let All Our Ghosts Depart, and Abdulrahman El-Gindi's memoir is Huna. 2025 also saw Steinbeck Fellows El Gindi and AJ Bermudez receive, respectively, the European Union Press Freedom Award and the South by Southwest Narrative Spotlight Award. Other recent fellows have won the California Book Award, Shruti Swami, the National Book Critics Circle Award, the late Anthony Viasna So won that, and the AKO Kane Prize, which Marilyn Hedero won. So, as you can see, right, Steinbeck Fellows are doing big things. All right, so where to begin? We're going to bring up our first reader. Our first reader is Bill Nguyen. Let me introduce him first. So, Bill Nguyen is a fiction writer from San Jose, California, and a recent graduate of the Iowa Writers Workshop. His writing has received fellowship support from Kundiman, the University of Iowa, and William Morris Endeavor. Let's give a big round to Bill.
Thank you for that gracious introduction, Keenan. I'm going to read from a short story that is structured as a list of names. So it's a name, a paragraph, a name, a paragraph. I will read 8 paragraphs, 4 from the beginning of the story. I'll jump ahead a little, 2 more, I'll jump ahead a lot, and then read 2 last ones. A partial list of people who made me, 1998 to 2017. Carlos. You and Carlos are both new to Happy Hollow Apartments. His family moved in a month before yours. You both sign up to feed Mr. Godfrey, the 5th grade class hamster, and you both play tetherball alone. In the winter, Carlos's glasses fog up whenever he steps onto the bus. He gropes then for the first empty seat. In the spring, he has the leisure of surveying his options and chooses to sit next to you. Nothing changes, at least not at first. The two of you, as silent here as at school, have managed never to say more than hello. Then it comes, a grasshopper bounding through an open window and onto his shorts. The carcass crunches beneath your palm before you realize what you've done. Carlos stares ahead, as if undisturbed. At Happy Hollow, you follow him even though your apartment is in the opposite direction. The distance between you keeps growing, and the prospect of apologizing seems futile. But as he reaches his doorstep, he wheels around and says something you can't make out. "What?" you shout, over the wind. His hands form a diamond in front of his mouth. He shouts back, "I owe you." Mother. Your mother takes you to Chuck E. Cheese for your 12th birthday. The bouncer, some teenager in a rat costume, stamps your hand under the glow of purple lights. Thanks to a coupon you've clipped from the San Jose Penny Saver, you get 50 tokens instead of 40, plus a pepperoni pizza for $10. The place reeks of sweat, but that's no matter. While your father stocks shelves at a liquor store in Sunnyvale, you and your mother toss mini basketballs and race each other in virtual cars. These aren't the kinds of games where you can earn tickets, so you move on to other ones, like the Wheel of Winners. The wheel strikes you as a scam. You press one button to spin and another to stop, aiming for the skinny 100 slice, sandwiched between 2 fat slices of one. The machine spits out a single ticket that rips when you try to collect it. Your mother takes over and aims instead for the medium slice of 25. The tickets come sliding out. She wins again. At this rate, you'll be able to get the walkie-talkies. You'll be able to get whatever prize you want. So why do you keep thinking of basketballs? In the middle of counting tickets, your mother squints at you, twice, and as if reading your face, she takes you by the hand back to Pop-A-Shot. You spend the rest of your tokens there, winning no tickets. It's not that kind of game. Jessie. A rumor begins to circulate just a couple of weeks into middle school. The rumor in its basic form is that you suck Carlos's dick. By some accounts, you enjoy it most after PE, when his balls are extra sweaty. Carlos is unfazed, or seems to be. He even makes a point of wrapping his arm around you during passing period. This is how you know you don't like him in that way. His fraternal touch doesn't leave you wanting more. You're annoyed, but not as openly as Grace or Tani or Jessie, your other friends in homeroom. Jessie expresses an urge to kill whoever started this and invites you to hang out after school, just the two of you. He lives 3 blocks away in a house with 2 floors and a shingled roof. You play Bomberman and laugh all afternoon. When he goes upstairs to talk with his mother, who lives in Nebraska and calls on Tuesdays, you peruse the shelves in his bedroom. An untitled book turns out to be his journal, and you cannot look away. The more you read, the more your face heats up. While Jessie's still on the phone, you make up an excuse to go home. The next day, you take him aside at break and accuse him of starting the rumor. He laughs incredulously, and then maliciously, once he understands that you aren't joking. So what if I did, he sneers, knocking his forehead against yours. What the F are you going to do about it? What indeed? You raise your arm to slap him, but forget to unclench your fist, hitting him square in the mouth. Derek. Your prize for stalking Jessie is 3 months of counseling. When you pretend not to speak English, you get placed in ESL too, and then in a summer reform camp. Your father, incensed, sends you off with a bruise on your arm. He's recently taken to hitting you above the waist. The other boys at camp have names like Declan and Hugo. None of them have acquired the social grace of picking their nostrils only in private. It's this, the indignity of being grouped with them, more than the trust falls or the slide decks on anger management, that motivates you to become a different person. Your contempt must be obvious, because your bagged lunch keeps going missing, and a boy with earrings twice kicks up a dust cloud that makes you gag. Derek, your cabin counselor, sees the injustices that befall you, sees you weather them without complaint, and rubs your back as if you're the MVP of a sports team, or a saint. On the last night, you excuse yourself from the campfire for an extended bathroom break. You scoop maggots out of a dead squirrel you noticed that morning and add them to everyone's canteen, including your own. In the morning, 2 boys drink and retch. You pretend to drink and retch. Derek demands to know who's responsible, but no one answers. As you all line up for the bus, he hugs each of you, hands each of you a slip with his email. You'll remember the slip for the unusual spelling of his name, mission_DARRICK@sbcglobal.net, and for the message underneath. I know it was you, my man. Pay it forward. Jump ahead a little. Zizi. Carlos now dresses in monochrome, red or black. He runs with burlier boys and calls you Chino instead of your name. Grace is at another high school, and Tani might as well be, wrapped up as she is in a series of boyfriends. Your father loses his job, finds another, and loses that one too. It is under these conditions that you start going to the library after school. You've never been a big reader, but there's nothing else to do once you've finished your homework. You read about how penguins mate, how railroads get built. You read about how to make fried eggplant, although it'll be years before you make it. One of the stories you read features a girl named Daphne. She writes a poem that is peripheral to the story, but it's all you can think of when you finish. You are my father, the veteran. When you cry in the dark, it rains and rains and rains in my heart. It's not Daphne you're curious about, but the author, Zizi Packer. Why did she write this? How did she know? Mother. Lately, you've been talking a lot. Your mother whispers a question or a complaint at the bank or the public benefits office, and you relay it in an English that is sure and polite. David, the social worker who connects your family with CalWorks and CalFresh, tells you to tell your mother that she should be proud. Perhaps she is. Later, much later, you will sanctify these moments in personal statements, in job interviews, in earshot of people you wish to impress, when you still cannot distinguish real admiration from a blend of fetish and idolatry, or do not care about the difference. But see now the kind of moment you will not disclose. Your father's elbow striking your throat, your mother weeping ineffectually. The two of you and your mother, ambling hand in hand afterward to Walmart. She taps an employee on the shoulder and points to you, as if it were any other day. Except today you smile mutely, stubbornly, forcing her to garble and choke on her words. Isn't she here for you, here to buy ice cream and a pack of trading cards? Doesn't she stroke your hair whenever you cannot fall asleep? After your father breaks your arm, you will ignore her in public for years and years. Big story jump. Father. The Dean of Academic Affairs says to talk to the Dean of Student Services. The Dean of Student Services says maybe, probably not, but talk to the advisor of your department. The literature advisor says he isn't sure. It's out of his hands, but have you tried talking to the Dean of Academic Affairs? In the end, you negotiate a 1-year leave. You won't even need the full year, your mother says on the drive home. The wait list is just 6 months long, maybe 7. Medi-Cal will cover it. She'll be home by 8:30 most nights. Don't worry, he doesn't even need that much help. But he does. He spends all day supine in the single bedroom of your family's apartment. He is jaundiced almost beyond recognition, and as you feed him porridge, change his clothes, launder his sheets, call his doctor, organize his pills, massage his calves, wipe his butt, and do it all over again, he doesn't seem to recognize you either. Of course it's dementia. Of course he gets to forget. You walk around Happy Hollow with the hoodie cinched around your face. Turn the corner when you see anyone familiar in town. You let the calls and texts from Priscilla go unanswered until they stop. Same for Carlos's emails, although those continue trickling in. Hey Chino, I'm in Tampa now. It's good here, you should come visit when you can. Send a pic from NYC, I've been waiting. Every night, you inch closer to a plan that would land you in prison for life. And every morning, you abandon it. Could it be that you're just missing the right angle from which to see him? No. You are too old for such illusions. Whatever his depths, you will not dignify him with more compassion than he deserves, which is none. What was it that he used to say, so trite, that he was about to teach you a lesson? You can recall every beating, every touch, but not every lesson. There are then 2 kinds of pain, the kind you learn from, and the kind you learn only to remember. Father. Because it's late in the evening, because he's deep in a drink, because this place is a mess, because dinner is garbage, because everything's garbage, because you're being too loud, because you're being too quiet, because the window is open, because he wants it closed, because, oh God, he loves you, because that's how much he loves you, because your father, the veteran, because he cries in the dark, because when your mother's away, because when his fingers reach under, because it feels good, doesn't it? Because doesn't it feel good? Because feeling does no good. Because, yes, because. Don't you know it's because? Thank you.
Thank you, Bill, for brilliant, that brilliant, many-layered, tragic, also tragicomic, right, in places. Just beautiful, beautiful writing. Thank you so much. I know that there are people coming in, and we are well past standing room only. I'm going to introduce our next reader, and then I'm going to go try to get some folks some chairs, okay? So don't mind me in the back. All right. So our next reader, our next Steinbeck Fellow, is Jennie Li. Jennie Li is a writer from Honolulu, Hawaii. She holds an MFA from the University of Oregon and an MA from the University of California, Davis, where she received the Elliot Gilbert Memorial Prize in Fiction. She was also a finalist for the 2020 Iowa Review Award in Fiction. Her writing is inspired by her father's immigration from Pakse, Laos, and her mother's immigration from Icheon, South Korea. She is currently working on a novel that follows a civilian Laotian family as they flee their homeland near the end of the Civil War. She teaches at the Leeward Community College on the island of Oahu. Please give it up for Jennie Li.
Thank you, Keenan. I'm going to be reading from an excerpt from my novel. The novel is called When We Return to Pakse. Sai, Pakse, Laos, 1975. What they promised us was salvation, all of us, me, Noi, Gail, and Thui, using foreign sweets that not even their soldiers would have had. Now and laters, lemon heads, Smarties, lifesavers. They let us through their church doors. Such strange, good candy. Even though we were already teenagers, we couldn't resist. We had never had such luxury in our lives. We couldn't help but enter their strange temple and listen to their frightening stories, the very ones that warned us about giving into our temptations for their free sweets. They said we would be saved, that after death, we would be welcomed into a heavenly kingdom. But how could we bother with all that? We didn't care to worry about our next lives just yet, not while we're still trying to live through this one. We didn't care to be born again in a new world, but they told us we would be. Into an eternal kingdom, bathed gold inside and out, unlike the temples of Buddha, which were only covered on the outside, like the shell of an egg. They did not care that we did not understand their speeches and could barely repeat their words. We sat in their church, a white house temple, on their long benches, and listened to the robed white man at the front, our fists clenched around the bright, yellow, orb-shaped candy, and shouted, "Amen, hallelujah," when the rest of them shouted, and waited for them to finish so that we could get one more piece of candy before we left. I, gifted tongue, could understand the general idea of the stories, even if I could not follow completely nor read their book of scriptures. I translated whatever I could gather of their odd stories to the others when we were back in the safety of the courtyard between our houses. By our houses, I meant mine and my sister Noi's house, and Gail's. Tui lived across the street. We let him join us because he was in our class, and because Kale and I thought his younger sister was pretty, and also secretly because he had a hopeless love for Noi, and I felt sorry for him for having it. He was good at football, too. I reasoned to Kale, who loved football so much, that Buddha had him born with the roundest head in Pakse, maybe even in all of Laos. In any case, it was better for us to stick together. Most of the kids on our street went to Lao secondary schools, but we went to the only Chinese one in the city. It was better to learn Chinese, we were told, but in exchange, we could only read Lao as far as the street signs and restaurant menus, despite being 13. My father, who survived the occupation as a truck driver, also taught me bits of English and French that he picked up, half for fun to kill time while we made deliveries around the city, and half so that he would not forget in case it was necessary for survival. "Sosai?" Kale said, leaning across the little round table. The courtyard between our houses was a tiny space. It was a gap between our buildings for each family's clotheslines, but big enough to fit a table, 3 plastic chairs, and 1 wooden stool. The house that blocked off the back of the courtyard did not have a door leading into it, so it was just our 2 families that could go in and out. "What kind of story did the man tell today? Another Jeso one?" The last 2 Sundays had been stories about a man named Jesus, though I could only gather that because an American grandmother sitting in front of me kept turning to me to say Jesus loves you, while motioning her hands between her heart and me, until I finally realized that Jesus was the name from the church's story and not her name. Jesus, I corrected, though I wasn't sure if I was pronouncing it any better. No, I think it was a story about another man. I hadn't been able to catch the name of the character in the story. It was something about a man who was eaten by a sea monster and saved their god. It helped that the robe man, their head monk or priest or prayer leader, was so expressive. He acted out scenes and even changed his voice to differentiate between characters. The prayers were boring, the same low hum as the chanting of the monks in our own temples, and just as unintelligible. But the speeches that the robed man made in between the prayers were interesting, sometimes even fun, even if we could not understand them. There were a few other Lao people in the church that we could have asked to help us translate, but we didn't know them. They were mostly young ladies who had married Americans. We kept to ourselves at the back of the church, mostly afraid that one of them might recognize us and tell our parents. More than being afraid of the lickings we'd get from our fathers for going to a place swarming with off-duty American GIs just to get a few pieces of candy, the scolding we'd get for being the most greedy and foolish teenagers in all of Laos, we didn't want to give up the candy just yet. Kale laughed. "A sea monster?"
Attention, the library will close to the public in 30 minutes. SJSU parties with current tower cards may remain until 12 a.m. All other parties must exit the building by 8 p.m. Once again, the library will close to the public in less than 30 minutes. Thank you.
It adds character.
I think so too. I'm very blessed to be part of that. "Not so loud, you idiot," Noi said. Perfect timing, thank you. She glanced at the windows around us to make sure our parents weren't watching us from them. Both of Kale's parents worked. Normally, our mother and our younger sister would be at home, but since we got the news of the communist takeover in the capital and decided to flee the country, our mother went to the marketplace with Kale's mother to earn a little extra money by selling sweet and sticky rice. Our younger siblings were sent across the street to Tui's house, where his mother and older sisters looked after them. Still, our mothers went in and out of the house at random times of the day, and there was no telling if they might overhear our church debriefs. "How can one be saved after being eaten?" Kale asked. "That's the point, isn't it?" Noi said, smiling wryly. "It's just kind of stupid." "This was your idea in the first place," Tui said. "You're the one who begged us to go." Kale heard about the free candy from his older cousin, who worked as a delivery boy for a general store near the church and dropped off the bags of imported goods to them every week. He said they give out free candy to children, Kale told us. Free! All we had to do was go there on Sundays and listen to their monk. Noi immediately protested, calling him a fool to risk his life for candy. And besides, we weren't really children, so they wouldn't give it to us anyways. Tui looked torn about who to support, but ended up agreeing with Noi. They all looked at me for the final say. Our families were not so poor that we had to quit school to work full-time, but we could count on one hand the time we've eaten candy. The last time I had candy was on my 8th birthday, when a distant aunt from the capital came to visit. It had been a plum-flavored piece of hard candy that left me and Noi nearly crying in its tartness, but it had been delicious and wonderful all the same. "We don't even speak English," Noi said. "It'll be a good learning opportunity," I said. "I'm sure it's safe." "You don't know that," she said. We frowned at each other. Noi was older by 10 months and would turn 14 first, but I was a boy, and that mattered more in our household and in everything. Kale, sensing it, cut in. "Oh, come on, Noi, live a little. Let's just check it out once. If we weren't welcome, maybe they wouldn't put their church here in the first place. Besides, we really need to improve our English," I said. "Who knows when we'll leave for America?" "Your family still might go to France," Tui said. His family was making plans to flee to Paris, where his father once lived as a boy. I knew that he was hoping our family would also head there, so he wouldn't have to part with Noi. It's easier to go there than it is to the U.S. If you wanted to go to America, you had to have somebody already in America to bring you over. If you wanted to go to America, you had to go through Thailand. And if you wanted to go to America, you had to cross the river on a night with no moon. We all knew this because we were the oldest children or sons in our family, old enough to be included as second in command to our parents' worst-case scenarios. My family was set for America. My uncle had been sent there to study, which was paid for by our government, under the expectation that he'd return to work at the capital's embassy. But instead, he'd gone there, and upon graduating from university, decided never to return to Laos. He worked for the American government now, though this was a secret that only my parents, Noi, and I knew. And he could get our sponsorship approved easily. "Reckless," my mother said when she received the news of his defection. She put down my uncle's letter, which had been carefully hidden within mail orders that the big shops in our city used, and, after a moment of hesitation, threw it in the burning charcoal underneath the stove. It will help him bring all of us to America, but the communists will put him on their hit list. He will be banned from Laos forever." It didn't seem like a big deal to us, but having only lived just over a decade, we would not know the taste of longing for our motherland just for a while yet. We were born during the war, and it was all we knew. We had been too small to remember the worst of it. All we knew was that it had been really bad before we were born, and then there was some fake peace, then our birth, then the communists. All we know was we were to go to school and not anywhere else. A promise to our parents that we would break for American sweets. The first Sunday had been terrifying, but we all went, even Noi, though she threatened to tell on us even as we started walking to the church. The man at the door of the church gave us each a piece of candy as we entered, even before we attempted to ask, and pointed to the long wooden bench before giving candy to the children behind us. On the way out, he gave us each another piece. "So," Noi said, looking at me as we walked home, "did you learn anything? Because I sure didn't." I straightened my back, which I knew she hated. I was taller than her now, by nearly half a head. I could understand some. "Really?" Kale said excitedly. "What were they saying?" My heart pounded. I hadn't understood a single word. But there had been a moment where everyone in the church took the book that was on the back of the chair in front of them and flipped to a page that the man at the front dictated. Books like that, I knew, were for stories. He was telling some story about a man. There had been motions of hands clasped in prayer and sounds of weeping being acted out. A man who begged for forgiveness from his God and received it. Noi didn't look convinced. Why did he beg for forgiveness? Why does anyone, I retorted. Because he did something wrong. Noi rolled her eyes. Yes, but what exactly? Who cares, Kale said, wrapping an arm around my shoulder. We got candy. We entered the door to our house and found that the house was empty. Our father was ferrying people or goods around the city in his truck. Our mother was at the market, and our 3 younger siblings were at Tui's house, being looked after by his family. On the way to the courtyard door, Noi grabbed her composition book and stopped the rest of us before we could reach it. We're going to work on our classics essay. It's 500 characters. Kale and I groaned. Tui stayed silent, but I knew he was as eager to do his homework as the rest of us. Noi stood in front of the door with her hands on her hips. Go get your books. It was easier to comply than to argue with her. When we returned to the courtyard, Noi was already hunched over the table and scribbling away in her book. The rest of us sat down and took out our 2 pieces of candy. They were bright plastic packets with the word Zots printed on the front. Wow, Kale breathed. He quickly ripped it open and popped it into his mouth. Yes, Noi said. Be sure to throw the wrapper away carefully. Hide it at the bottom of all the other trash. She looked up. Now hurry up and start your essays. The candy was sweet. I'd never had anything like it. It felt like sugar syrup filling my mouth. It was almost too sweet for my liking, but for some reason the taste of it made me want to cry. Why do we even need to learn Chinese anymore? Kale said. Noi rolled her eyes again. She was the queen of eye rolling. It didn't matter that she was only older by 1 birth cycle, less than a whole year. She liked to lord it over us. Even worse, the other 2 let her. Tui, in his infatuation, and Kale, with his easygoing nature. The more languages you can master, the more job opportunities, she said. How can we master so many before we leave? Kale said. His goal was to become a football player, which Noi, and Tui by extension, thought was ridiculous. Last year, that had been my dream too, but with our departure feeling closer and closer, with each letter we received from my uncle, the more I found myself revising that thought. Noi and I had 3 younger siblings, 1 just starting school and 2 still bottle-fed. You don't stop studying once you leave, Tui said. Noi looked up from her scribbling to smile brightly at him, who turned red and ducked his head. He pretended to go back to his homework, where he had only gotten as far as his name. Suck up, I muttered. Someone kicked my shin under the table. Kale held up a finger, the way the priest at church, a tall but old American man with a booming voice, did at the end of his speech. To learn the enemy's words is to become the enemy. Confucius? Sun Tzu? Tui frowned. The loud grandpa from the church? Kale, said Kale, pointing a thumb at himself and grinning. We boys laughed. Noi, head down, worked as though she wasn't listening. And who's the enemy? Tui asked. We listed them. The Viet Cong, the French, the Americans, the Chinese, the Thai. We kept going. The Vietnamese, the government, the kingdom, the communists, the sympathizers. We took turns and made sure to keep our voices low. The capital, the university students, our neighbors. The list seemed endless. Our Chinese school, the American churches, and maybe even, Buddha forgive us for thinking so, our own temples. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Yeah. The excerpt that you read from your novel in progress, and I've told you this before, but I might as well say it here, right? Really brings to mind some of the opening lines from Sabina Murray's The Caprices. What you are witnessing is war, right? What you are witnessing is war. These mundane scenes of life that are actually, right, encoded with all the indicia of war, of empire, of missionary work, of displacement, and all the terrors that beset peoples in conflict. And yet, right, the juxtaposition with, these kids, these young people who are just doing what young people anywhere would do. It's fantastic writing. Thank you so much. All right. So before we move on to our final reader for the evening, I do want to tell you guys that we have a couple other parts to this event this evening as well. One will be the announcement of our next cohort of fellows. The other piece is that we're going to have a Q&A with these three wonderful writers. And we're going to find some chairs somewhere for them to... They're going to come up here. There will be chairs. I don't know where they're going to materialize from, but they will. And you'll be able to ask them questions about their work, about the creative process, all of that. So if you may have a question, start thinking, right? Start cogitating, and we'll have time for that. Okay, let me introduce our third and final reader for the evening. Olivia Cheng is a writer from northern New Jersey. Her fiction can be found in the Threepenny Review, Guernica, EPOCH, the Georgia Review, and more. She holds an MFA in fiction and Zell Fellowship from the University of Michigan, and she is currently working on her first novel. Everybody, please welcome Olivia Cheng.
All right, hey everyone, I'm Olivia. So let's try to wrap this up in 10 minutes because the library's closing. Yeah, I've never loved readings because
Attention, the library will close to the public in less than 15 minutes. SJSU Spartans with current tower cards may remain until 12 a.m. All other parties must exit the building by 8 p.m. Once again, the library will close to the public in less than 15 minutes. Thank you.
yeah, it's time to wrap this up. But I've never loved readings because my orthodontist told me that I've got the smallest mouth he's ever seen. So it's always been really tough for me. Yeah, please laugh. Thank you. All right, so what is this piece about? Basically, this is an excerpt, like a kind of twisted excerpt from my novel. My novel ended up not working out. It won submission, failed. It was a bummer. I was big sad. But anyways, what this piece is, it's basically a conversation between a Vietnamese guy and a white woman. They're on a date right now. Yeah, it's not a very deep piece, but I hope you have fun with it. So they're on a date at a coffee shop, and she's telling him about a vacation she had in Vietnam. Yeah, hijinks ensue. Okay, so she says, anyways, our tour guide Khan would always eat with us and play cards with us at night. He told us he was from Kappa Island, and that Kappa really meant woman in Vietnamese, which is very romantic. My best friend, or maybe my former best friend, I'm not sure, thought he was cute. He was really ripped, but he had these teensy tiny little nipples. Now this is the main character thinking. He's thinking, we only had sex in the dark. I like to shut off the lights so that I could feel the soft skin of her thighs without knowing whether she closed her mouth when she moaned, or whether her eyes had a look of boredom or yearning when I moved inside of her. When she turned on the lights after, everything would jump into a sharp clarity that hurt my eyes. The sheets had been scratchy and they'd smell like her dog. Her skin had been unclean with brown flecks in it. But sex was sex, and I took it when I got it. It was all disappointingly familiar. The girl speaking again. And none of the people around me would want to talk to me. She's talking about her, like I said, her vacation in Vietnam. It was like I was sitting in my tent, and they would all go and play cards, and I would see them later, and they would invite me to join. But Khan would come over and sit with me, and he would watch me when I rinsed myself in the water. You know how you know when someone is watching you? I nodded. I remembered when I had been at a concert a year ago, how I could tell someone had their eyes on me. It was almost a paranoid feeling, like someone was breathing on your neck. It was a vibration that seemed to bore into your back until it moved up your spine and reached the tip of your tongue. When I turned around, I saw an older man watching me, and I stopped dancing and instead felt odd and ashamed. It was at the time, a fear and a comfort that I was invisible, but after the concert, I realized I did not like the rawness of being seen and enjoyed the privilege of an unassuming existence. I did not see the man when I left. At the end of the first week, on Sunday night, Khan was passing by my tent and saw that I was still up and scrolling on my phone. So he asked if I wanted to have tea to help me sleep. We sat at the little table, there's one at every campsite, and he kissed me. He tasted good, like sweat. And we ended up having sex, protected of course, that week. But it was discreet. It only happened late at night, and I was tired the next day. But the raw energy we had, it was there. I asked, did you ever do it with the other woman on the tour group? She said, well, I'm getting there, and you don't need to be crass. It's not called doing it, she reprimanded me. She had told me some story about her sexual escapade at 18 with a 7-year-old man a week ago, although I was not sure if it was an exaggeration or truth. I balled my hands into fists and then released. An odd sour taste rose up in my mouth, but I swallowed it and took another sip of my coffee. I finished my scone, but a few crumbs fell down my chin and onto the table. I hated when that happened, so I scooped them all up and collected them on a napkin. I didn't know what time it was, but I could see that the coffee shop was clearing out and the employees were washing all the mugs and machines. When I had visited my family in Vietnam as a teenager, I liked going into the jungles the most. I remembered when we had been on a tour and had seen a viper. It had small slit eyes and was passive, almost relaxed in the way it looked at me. That same tour, a leech had attached to my hand, and the guide tore it off and dropped it on the ground. She said, he was very sweet. He went down on me a lot, and he seemed grateful when he did it. You know how you can tell when someone is grateful? I thought I was falling in love with him, but he saw me because he was so different from other men I had been with. I think I understand, I said, although I wasn't sure if I had ever had someone be grateful for sex with me. I wondered if I was always the grateful one. Did she think about him when she was fucking me? Sorry. Was I more satisfying, more pleasurable for her? The bell on the door of the coffee shop rang. A man walked in, and the employees at the counter waved him away. It was too late for new orders. They began stacking up chairs on the table. She said, and you know what he did at the end of the trip? He asked me for money. Can you believe that? He asked me for money on the last night, and I gave it to him because he started crying. I felt cheated because he was just preying on my pity and discretion. He didn't threaten me or anything, but definitely took advantage of me, you know? It was very toxic. I cried when I got home. I never told anyone else about this. Well, except my therapist. I of course told my therapist, but nobody else. She laughed when she said this. I was not sure if I believed it all. She told stories like these all the time. She liked to go for the shock factor. I wasn't even sure she had been to Vietnam, although I knew she had gone to Japan the year before. All white women loved Japan because it was safe and palatable. The people were very cute and harmless, and not dirty and angry. I rubbed my thumb against my temple in a circular motion and nodded. She said, I looked him up on Facebook recently. Khan has a child and a wife. They were married when we had sex. Isn't that terrible? I shrugged my shoulders and licked the edge of my coffee mug. Our relationship was not serious. It was definitively casual. Seriously, he had a kid, she said. And he was off having sex with some 20-year-old. And he was crying and crying, you know, just begging me for money. She scoffed and tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. That's horrible, I agreed, soothing her even as my legs shook up and down with an irrepressible restlessness. When she went to the bathroom, I paid the check. I saw that she had left an inch of coffee at the bottom of her cup, so I downed it quickly. I left a 25% tip, even though nobody was watching. What did it matter whether it was true or not? She would take me home that night, we would have sex. It would be neither inspired nor dramatic, but confused and fumbling, an unusual self-inflicted wound. And then I would put my clothes back on and leave before midnight. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I enjoyed the humor, ribald, mordant, and other adjectives that I could use. More broadly, I just want to say what I think a lot of people here, a lot of your listeners also are probably thinking, which is not this, but which is that, okay, yeah. I'm getting some of my own medicine here. which is that we're very much looking forward to your novel. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. All right. So let's see. So next up, I do want to now introduce and tell you a bit about our next cohort of fellows, our next Steinbeck Fellows cohort for the 2026-2027 academic year. What I wanted to do was to bring their headshots up one after the next on this TV here, but it's a dicey situation. It's a very dicey situation. It's more likely that, like, I don't know, that, the Comedy Network is going to show up on here if I try to pull that up. So you're just going to imagine what they all look like. So, all right. So Preeti Vengani is the first of our new Steinbeck Fellows. Preeti Vengani is a poet and writer from Bombay who is based in San Francisco. She is the author of the poetry collections Mother Tongue Apologize and 50 Mothers. Her work has appeared in Agni, in the Georgia Review, and Gulf Coast, Prairie Schooner, among other literary journals. Her debut short story won the 2021 Penn Dow Emerging Writers Prize. Vengani has been a resident at UCross, Gerasi, and Ragdale. She has received grants from the San Francisco Artists Commission, the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts, and the Barbara Deming Memorial Fund. She holds an MFA in writing from the University of San Francisco and teaches in the program. The second of our new fellows is Angela Francis Hui, who is a writer from San Francisco. Her work has appeared in Swamp Pink, formerly Crazy Horse Literary Journal, EPOCH, Electric Lit, and the Chicago Review of Books. She has a BA in English from Harvard, where she served as fiction editor of the Harvard Advocate. She is working on a novel and a short story collection. The third of our new fellows is Billy Lesra, who holds an MFA in nonfiction from UNLV. They were the winner of the 2024 Plowshares Emerging Writers Award in Nonfiction. They have contributed work to Electric Lit, The Washington Post, CNN, and elsewhere. The work has been supported by Breadloaf, the McCormick Writing Center, Sewanee Writers Conference, the Los Angeles Review of Books, Publishing Workshop, and Lambda Literary. They are the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Rough Cut Press, a monthly magazine that publishes voices from the LGBTQIA community. Our next new fellow is Cristina Fries, who is a Colombian-American fiction writer based in San Francisco. Her work has appeared in PEN America Best Debut Short Stories 2018, the Michigan Quarterly Review, EPOCH, Action/Spectacle, War, Literature and the Arts, Vestal Review, and Swamp Pink. She is the recipient of the Penn Dow Short Story Prize for Emerging Writers, a Fulbright Fellowship in Creative Writing, a Tin House Scholarship, and the Adroit Journal Anthony Viasna So Scholarship. She received her MA in Creative Writing from UC Davis, where she received the Elliot Gilbert Prize in Fiction. She has written a collection of stories and is at work on a novel and an opera libretto. Our next and penultimate new Steinbeck Fellow is Swati Sudarsan, who's a writer from Michigan. They are a 2025 Asian American Writers Workshop Margins Fellow, 2025 Periplus Fellow, and the recipient of the 2023 Breadloaf Catherine Bakeless Nason Award. The writing has additionally been supported by organizations such as Sewanee Writers Conference, the Granum Prize, McCormick Writing Center, Kenyon Review, and more. Their work can be found in or is forthcoming from the Cleveland Review of Books, Cake Zine, and Kismet, among others. During their fellowship year, they will be working on a campus novel that examines the perversion of nurturing excess and emptiness and the beauty and burden of inhabiting a femme body through the lens of the trauma dialectic. And finally, our sixth new fellow is here with us. Our sixth new fellow is here with us. Tracy Abeta is a third grade dropout who didn't get a GED, but did snag an MFA from the Institute of American Indian Arts, IAIA. She published short stories in Hobart Pulp, the Brooklyn Review, Diagram, Boston Review, EPOCH, and Prairie Schooner. Her Prairie Schooner piece made the Best American Essays Notable Literary Nonfiction list of 2024. An excerpt from her book in progress, Calavera, was a top 10 finalist for the Sewanee Review's nonfiction contest. She has received support to attend Breadloaf, Kenyon Review, Sun Valley Writers Conference, the Fine Arts Work Center, and Tin House.
The library is now closed to the public. SJSU Spartans with current tower cards may remain until 12 a.m. Spartans, please have your tower cards spaced up near you. Community service.
It's a tradition, y'all.
All other parties must exit
Those who know know.
at this time. Once again, the library is now closed to the public. Have a safe evening.
In 2025, she won the LitFest Emerging Nonfiction Fellowship and a Periplus Fellowship. She just completed the 2025 TV Writing Lab Fellowship for the Native American Media Alliance Program and was awarded a Netflix Accelerator grant. She teaches literature and lives in Oakland with a free-roaming lionhead rabbit, Stormy, who belongs to a banana mafia. Tracy, can we give Tracy and all our new fellows a hand? All right, so with that said, let me make sure that I'm going to the right thing. Yeah, let's bring up Olivia, Jenny, and Bill. All right, so I will, I'm gonna just call on folks as they want to, as they raise their hands. But yeah, let's first just give another round of applause to our writers. All right. So cool. All right. So yeah, questions for these brilliant writers. Anybody? Yeah, Kate and then Sarah.
Hi, writers. I was wondering if there was a teacher, mentor, or peer whose voice you hear when you're writing or revising. Somebody special to you, whose advice you take, or who was really influential to you.
Maybe we could just go down the line.
Okay. I had the honor to work with the late Lynn Freed. What she taught me was that, stories are rooted in characters. The sentence, everything, the purpose of sentences is to reveal that in a story. And so, and she was just she was so brilliant at line editing. And so every time I sit down, and it's not just like the construction of the story that I hear her voice, although that's important too. She would tell me okay, this is a 15-page story. Your story starts on page 14, which would break me down. But she knew when a story was getting good. And when I hear her I hear her voice most often in revision, and I think that's such a crucial part of the writing process. So I'm really grateful to have studied under her, and I think it's such a loss to the literary community. She's no longer teaching, but yeah, I think she made one of the biggest impacts in my life as a writer.
Oh yeah.
Do I go first?
Sure. I would say Margot Livesey. She is this Scottish writer who was kind of brutal in workshop, but her brutality would be debarred by her accent. She would say, "We see that the story aspires to beauty," which is really rude. But I think she has many good pieces of advice. One of which is everyone has a secret sorrow, which I think is so helpful to keep in mind when I'm thinking about characters in my stories. If someone is kind of flat or not working, it's probably because I'm not fully considering them. So,
yeah, I wish I had someone. I just feel like, for the most part, for me, writing's been pretty solitary. But I think so was my friend Lev, who likes to ride around like shirtless in Brooklyn in the summer, and he's a carefree guy. I always think of him when I write. So good friend. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful writing, you three. Thank you for sharing. If I could, I'd like to direct a question to Bill. I found your piece really powerful, and I thought the form of the second person address and like the different sections kind of centered on these different characters to be really compelling, and it just kind of lent itself to the piece. And I was curious how you came to that and how you decided on that was the form that would best support that story.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Sarah. I wrote that story partly in response to a poem that I'd read from a classmate from law school. Some classmates are here in the audience. Amanda Almeda published a poem in our law school literary journal that was just about moving, and there were two things from it that touched me. One was a couple of lines that the lines were, until now, my favorite songs have been about dancing. Here is my first memory of understanding a song about longing. And then the other piece was, it's the speaker is moving and she moves a lot, and there's a stanza where she says, I'm 8, I'm 11, I'm 11, I'm 11, I'm 13, I'm 14, and I was like, oh, I wanted to move through a story episodically like that, so I just wrote fan fiction of her poetry. I think. And yeah, that's where it started.
Yeah. Other questions that folks have?
Was there a book for any of you that really triggered you actually writing? Not your favorite book, but the one that you're like, wait a minute, this voice is something either I want to do, or it reminds me of something I can do, or for some reason released you to actually do it.
I can start. I think Dear Mr. Henshaw by Beverly Cleary. It's about this boy who writes to his favorite author from 1st to 6th grade. His parents are going through a divorce. And it was the first fiction I read that was, I guess, realism. And I was like, oh, you can write fake real stories. And I was really moved by it. And then I wrote my own letter story.
God, you have such good answers. It's crazy. It's so nuts. But yeah, I studied math and econ in college, so I didn't have a chance to take a lot of creative writing classes. But I took this one class in Asian American fiction, and I read the Ruth Ozeki book, A Tale for the Time Being. I thought it was so good. And then I emailed her, and then she emailed me back 10 years later. And that's when I decided to apply for my MFA and go. So yeah, that was a very impactful book for me. She's a cool bitch, yeah.
Did you say, sorry, it's taken me 10 years?
No, she's like, oh yeah, you should be a writer. I'm like, all right, yeah, I should.
Oh, I love that book. That's a good one. There's a lot of books, so that's kind of hard. But I think recently, Love Medicine by Louise Erdrich. I feel like the way she uses language is, I started off as a poet, and so the sound of language and the way it surprises, that is so big to me. But I love writing fiction, and so I feel when I read Love Medicine, I was like, oh, I can have both. It doesn't have to exist separately, and she just uses all different forms. Love Medicine also is different points of view, so she uses first person different narrations, and so I was just a story can exist, a novel can exist in stories and in whatever form, as long as the reader is willing to participate in the language and the use of it. So yeah, I always when I'm stuck, I reread it. It has a zillion. At this point, I should just put a post-it on every page, but yeah, it's a book that I think just blows me away every time.
Yeah, thank you. That is a great book. Yeah, other folks with questions. Nick.
I got a question. Why are you doing this work? Why are you writing? I mean, I'm a writer. So I ask myself this a lot. A lot of it for me is inertia, because this is the path I'm on. But then I find that when I'm doing it, well, I don't want to tell you why I do it. I asked you the question.
What I want to hear.
Yeah, anybody like to start?
I guess I'll start this time since I forced Bill to go last. Olivia, why don't you?
I think you
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Well, I guess the short of it is that, I mean, I love it. I know that's like a cop-out answer, but why I do it is because it's just like, sometimes it feels like it's the only thing I know how to do. And like, all I do is think about stories. And so the novel that I'm working on is, I don't know. I mean, I guess in like, in some ways it's like, oh, it's, you know, an untold story by like a minority group of people. Like, you know, the civil war in Laos it's called a secret war because the US government kept it a secret. They were not supposed to, I mean, you know, it wasn't supposed to be known that they had activity there. So there's a lot, I mean, like the questions that I have, I'm just like, I can't just like sit with it. I have to like do something with the things I know, and the only thing I know how to do is write. So, I mean, why I'm doing this is because it's, I guess, I don't know, it's like the only thing I know how to do. It's freeing and fun, and it has to be done. I think like sometimes there are things that come from people, like art that can be made by people who all they have to do is make it, and I want to be one of those people, I guess.
Yeah, it's profound. Yeah. Other folks?
I think similar answer. Sometimes I feel like I have to. I would say that it helps with getting my heart to catch up to my mind. Like, I think like if I understand that something is true, sometimes I can like get my feelings to catch up faster if I write a story about it. So there's a therapeutic element, but I think it's mostly a compulsion that I must exercise.
Yeah, I think just super into my life at that time. Like I was like working when I first applied for my MFA. I was like a 5 or 6 years out of college, and then I was working in tech. I was dating this white guy, living in SF, and then all the Asian hate crime started around COVID. I felt like super angry and motivated to do something, and so I started reading and writing again, trying to understand like, okay, like how do people craft a story? Like how do I tell the stories of these people? And yeah, after that I kind of spiraled because, you know, I'm still doing it, and I just think it's important to like think about people like in writing. I feel like writing should be really external for me. Like it should be about people who, you know, like come from different backgrounds, or help me understand other people, help me understand people who might come from like a less privileged background than myself. So I think it's important that we as a society think about other people, and writing is like a means to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's one more question that anybody has. Yeah, Jack.
Yeah, this is for all of you, I guess, but as writers, I suppose I'd like to know, how do you gain and maintain confidence in this idea that someone is going to want to read what you're writing? And or do you not need that and you just write anyway?
Good question. Maybe we could start with you since...
I would say, how question do you think about that? Like, Yeah, I mean, I have not published a story yet, and I hope to continue to do that for as long as I can. So, yeah, I don't know. It's not weighing on me right now, but maybe soon it will.
Yeah, I just think that nobody's ever going to ask for your writing, or like no one ever asked for mine. People are actively like, stop writing, you know. Stop writing this inappropriate scene. But I don't know, at the end of the day, you get big sad, big mad. You kind of get happy again doing it, then big sad, big mad, and then you get happy doing it again. So, yeah.
That's
I'll
very
keep
accurate.
writing despite the haters.
Highly accurate. Yeah, Jenny.
Well, I love both of those answers. Well, on one hand, I do write for myself. I think, as Nick said, it's a bit of a movement, like, that propels me forward, like a compulsion, as Bill said. So even if no one's gonna read certain pieces, or I just need to write it for myself. Of course, there is the hope that, I'll polish it up, and be able to make it productive, like, for my, long-term goals. But there are times when I write and I'm like, I tell myself, like, I don't know if anyone would want to read this. But there are, on the other hand, I remind myself, like, there's so many, the world is filled with so many people. People read everything. Sadly, people read garbage, but I also read garbage, so I'm not above that. But whatever you're writing, someone wants to read it. There is someone. There's more than one person, more than yourself. Like someone, that's me, audience of one. But there are people who are waiting to read your stuff. You just have to be patient. You have to try. You get rejections. That's part of being like an artist in whatever field, not just in art, but in all disciplines. So the confidence comes from loving the work. Like, don't be afraid to do the work. I think writing is always going to be, it's subjective, especially creative writing. But knowing that there's someone out there waiting for whatever you have to write, regardless of what you think of it. And maybe they don't think it's good, maybe they pin it on their wall, but you can't control that. So you just have to do it. And you have a lot of supporters, I'm sure. So I think, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that is a wonderful, inspirational, and also, just supportive note on which to close the Q&A. Although, because I don't want to keep these writers up here too long and just fielding questions endlessly. But I think that at this point we should once again thank them for their literary service. Also means y'all can sit down if you feel like it. All right. So I just want to close out. First of all, I want to also shout out our grad student Steinbeck Fellows, some of whom are here. Opal Franklin, Dom Demopoulos, Jack Sides, Jess Roselius. Thank you so much, Jess, for your work this evening. Jess Roselius, Haley Jernigan, Mike Long also here. All right. And thanks to all our 2025, 2026 fellows, Naire, Sarah, Matsui is here, Kate Busato, who is here, Bill Nguyen, Jennie Li, and Olivia Cheng. Right. Last but not least, I want to thank our Steinbeck Center director, Nick Taylor. Thank you, Nick, for our longtime English department chair, Noelle Breda Williams, who is also here. And And one person who is not here but is really the engine behind the entire Steinbeck Fellows program, the brains of this operation, our administrator, our program administrator, Janice Zelaya. Thank you, Janice. And that's all I got. Have a good night, everybody.